Hey everyone, welcome back to Liberal Breakdown. Today, we're diving into Trump's so-called reciprocal tariffs. And let me tell you, these aren't as straightforward as they seem. Now, in case you've missed it, Trump announced a massive set of tariffs on dozens of countries, claiming they were reciprocal. Sounds fair enough, right? After all, if other countries are charging us high tariffs, we should charge them the same, right? Well, not exactly. It turns out the way they actually calculated these tariffs is a bit more questionable. Instead of actually going line by line and matching tariffs on specific products, like any reasonable person would expect, Trump's administration went with a simpler method. They took the U.S. trade deficit with each country, divided it by how much that country exports to us, and then halved that number. And bam! That's the tariff they slapped on that country. Now, you might be wondering, what's wrong with that? It seems like it makes sense on the surface, but this oversimplification is a disaster waiting to happen. You can't just look at the trade deficit and call it even. It's way more complicated than that.
So let's take Vietnam. You mentioned Vietnam earlier in the show, which is obviously a huge exporter to the United States because U.S. people buy Vietnamese goods. What does it actually mean? Trading between the U.S. and Vietnam, this is based on 2024 census data, which is the data that was utilized to come up with the calculation. Vietnam exports $136.6 billion in goods to the U.S. The U.S. exports $13.1 billion in goods to Vietnam. Now, how did they get to the 90%, which they cut in half to 46%? What they did is they subtracted the Vietnamese goods bought by the U.S., $136.6 billion, total U.S. goods bought by Vietnam, and ended up with $123.5 billion. Now, the way they actually got to the 90% number is they did 123.5 divided by 136.6, which equals 0.90 or 90%.
And then half of that.
And then because of the benevolence of President Trump, as he kind of laid it out, then they cut that in half.
Let's take Vietnam for a second. Vietnam has a GDP of about $470 billion, but guess what? Trump's tariff plan expects them to match $136 billion worth of American products. Yes, you heard that right, $136 billion. And here's the kicker. Vietnam's average monthly wage is $300. So how in the world are they supposed to match what the U.S. buys from them when their economy isn't even close to that level of output? It just doesn't make sense. You can't expect a country with a GDP that's small and such low wages to suddenly be able to reciprocate the same value that the U.S. imports from them. This is where the entire idea of these reciprocal tariffs completely falls apart. It's unrealistic and completely detached from economic reality. And this isn't just about Vietnam, it's about the whole system. When we look at smaller nations with less economic power, these tariffs hit them harder than they do countries like China or the EU. And what's worse, it's hurting American consumers as well. By just focusing on trade deficits, you ignore so many other factors, like the fact that we import a lot of high-quality goods that help our economy function, or the fact that smaller countries with less economic power might get hit way harder than big players like China or the EU. And let's not forget the farmers. This tariff nonsense is going to hit U.S. farmers, who already struggle enough. Countries like China, who are directly affected, are going to retaliate. It's the little guys, the everyday Americans, who are going to feel that pain in their wallets. Here's the thing. Everyday people, American workers, are the ones who suffer when trade wars escalate. Prices go up, supply chains break down, and jobs are lost. How does this help anyone in the long run? It doesn't. And that's why this policy is so concerning from a progressive perspective. It's not about protecting American jobs. It's about making decisions that look good on paper but hurt real people at home. And let's talk about the global reactions. Canada is mad, Europe is ready to retaliate, and China, well, they're not taking this lying down. Countries are fighting back, and it could lead to an even bigger trade crisis. Now, I understand the idea of fair trade, but what's going on here is a race to the bottom, and it's hurting those of us who can least afford it. For liberals like me, it's frustrating to see a policy that's so clearly designed to appeal to big corporations and ignore the needs of regular Americans.
President Trump says the markets are going to boom. Well, that's one word to describe what happened on Wall Street today. He also said his tariff rollout that happened yesterday is going, quote, well. That upbeat assessment comes less than 24 hours after the president, let us say, upended just about 100 years of understood global commerce. Today, Wall Street experienced the worst day since 2020. The post-election boom that the president, when he was president-elect, pointed to, well, that's been erased. Stock prices down, and Americans with portfolios either for their retirement or for now are facing genuine losses and the unhappy reality that they may be financially worse off than they were before Election Day.
Trump recently predicted that his tariffs would create a huge boom in the markets. Yeah, he said markets are going to boom after his big move, right? But as usual, reality has a different story. The stock market has been dropping faster than I've ever seen before, losing over $2 trillion in value. So here's what's going on. After Trump announced his tariffs, hoping to level the playing field, the market responded by tanking. We saw the Dow drop 1,600 points, and in turn, people started losing big in their investments. So instead of booming, the market is spiraling, and that's a big deal for a lot of people who've got their money tied up in stocks. Trump's prediction, well, it's easy to say that when you're out there signing orders, but not when the markets are actually feeling the pain. It's easy to talk about boom when you're not the one staring at your 401k balance drop. So, what's going on here? Instead of a booming economy, we're seeing inflation creep up, consumer prices rising, and businesses, big and small, starting to feel the heat from these tariffs. Trump, though, is still out there saying everything is going very well. I'm just sitting here wondering, which world is he living in? Because the reality is, prices are going up, markets are down, and more people are concerned about the economic future. And it's funny because this is the same guy who said, "We're going to win so much you'll get tired of winning." Yet all I see is losing. So where does that leave us? Well, it's clear to me that Trump's approach might be making a lot of promises, but the reality isn't adding up. The only thing we're winning right now is higher prices and an economy that's taking a hit. If you ask me, it's time to start thinking about better, smarter policies that actually benefit the American people, because this isn't it.
$5 million. For $5 million, this could be yours. That was the first of the cards. You know what that card is?
Gold card.
It's the gold card. The Trump card, gold card.
Who's the first buyer?
Me.
Who's the second?
First. I don't know, but I'm the first buyer. It'll be out in about less than 2 weeks, probably. Pretty exciting, right?
Just today, after the stock market crashes and tariffs placed, the new Gold Card Visa introduced by none other than Donald Trump. That's right, Trump's back at it, offering a VIP ticket to America for a cool $5 million. But hold on a second. What does this actually mean for us? Let's dive into this. Trump's administration has launched this new Gold Card Visa, which promises ultra-wealthy foreign nationals permanent U.S. residency and even a pathway to citizenship if they invest $5 million in the U.S. economy. Now, this is way beyond the standard EB-5 program, which requires $1 million investment, so you'd think, okay, this is a whole new level of exclusivity, right? Well, it's not just a new level. This thing is practically a platinum ticket. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says over 1,000 gold cards have already been sold, and they're estimating this program could rake in up to $1 trillion. That's a lot of cash. And honestly, if you're one of those billionaires looking for a shortcut to U.S. citizenship, well, it's looking pretty tempting. You'd get to contribute to the U.S. economy, create jobs, and if you've got the cash, get an easy pass to a life in America. But, and there's always a but, there are some serious concerns with this gold card visa. First of all, $5 million? Not exactly pocket change for the average person. This is clearly aimed at the ultra-wealthy. That's not just about making America great. That's about making it a country where only the top 1% get the golden ticket. And let's not forget the backlash. Critics are worried this could deepen inequality, making it easier for the rich to just buy their way into America. And of course, there's the issue of whether this will open the door to shady dealings or corruption. We're talking about people who might be facing sanctions in other countries, but now they have a way into the U.S. with a big enough check. So what does this mean for us? Well, the reality is, while this may bring in billions to the U.S., it doesn't exactly benefit the average American citizen. In fact, many are questioning whether we're creating a society where only the ultra-wealthy can thrive while regular folks are left behind. It's a pretty slippery slope when you're offering up citizenship for millions of dollars. It's almost like you're selling the American dream, but only to those who can afford it. But hey, what do you think? Are you seeing the boom Trump promised, or are we just watching a bigger economic mess unfold? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, stay informed and stay engaged. See you next time.